Network Africa. Growing tension in South Sudan as cracks emerge in the ruling coalition. The U.S. orders its staff to leave the country. The Democratic Republic of Congo offers $5 million bounties for helping to arrest 3 rebel leaders. Plus, Gabon's interim president, Brice Oligui Nguema, to face 3 challengers in April's presidential election. Hello and welcome to the program this week. I'm Layo Olarinde. Let's begin with stories and happenings that made headlines over the weekend.
On Sunday, Ghana's President John Dramani Mahama called for stronger security and trade relations between Ghana and Niger following discussions with Niger's leader, General Abdurrahman Chiani, in Niamey. The president also urged the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, to engage with the Alliance of Sahel States, a bloc formed by Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso after their exit from ECOWAS, to promote regional stability.
Inshallah, since this country has exited from ECOWAS, and he is also from ECOWAS and he's coming here, we are expecting something different from them. Maybe from the interaction, we'll see way forward.
His visit to Niger is part of a border tour of West Africa. On Saturday, he met Mali's transitional president, General Assimi Goïta, in Bamako. Before his visit to Mali, Mr. Mahama toured Equatorial Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, and Gabon, holding discussions on trade, security, and diplomacy. On Saturday, government officials in the DRC held a forum in Uvira, along with the militant group the Wazalendo, in an effort to restore security in the region and protect territorial integrity amid the ongoing conflict with M23 fighters. Soldiers and generals of armed forces groups attended the forum in a unified response to M23 advances in Bukavu and to assure locals of protection following reports of FARDC fighters fleeing the country to avoid opposition fighters. The United Arab Emirates inaugurated the Madol Field Hospital in the northern Bahr el Ghazal state of South Sudan on Sunday to play a key role in improving the quality of healthcare in South Sudan. According to Emirati Minister of State Sheikh Shagbut, the hospital has a 100-bed capacity and several specialized clinics to treat people from the host community. This is particularly significant in light of ongoing health challenges, such as the spread of malaria caused by insufficient medical services and inadequate access to medication.
Well, there is international concern over the growing tension in South Sudan as cracks emerge in the country's ruling coalition. Recent clashes in the northeast Upper Nile state between forces allied to the President Salva Kiir and First Vice President Riek Machar are threatening a fragile power-sharing agreement. This unity government was formed back in 2018 following a peace deal that ended the country's 5-year civil war that cost nearly 400,000 lives. An armed group clashed with the country's army last week, and that led to the arrest of 2 government ministers and a deputy army chief allied to Mr. Machar. As fears grow of a renewed full-blown civil war in South Sudan, the U.S. on Sunday ordered all its non-emergency staff to leave the country. The U.S. State Department says fighting is ongoing between various political and ethnic groups and that weapons are readily available to the population. Last Friday, a United Nations helicopter came under attack during a rescue mission which killed a crew member. The UN Commission on Human Rights in the country says it is witnessing an alarming regression that could erase years of hard-won progress in South Sudan. Here in West Africa, Gabon's interim president, Brice Oligui Nguema, is to face 3 challengers in the presidential polls due to take place on the 12th of April. The official list was published by the Interior Minister on Sunday, and that's 1 day after the deadline for candidature. 19 others were rejected, but they were given 72 hours in which to lodge an appeal with the Constitutional Court. President Uguema seized power in a 2023 military coup that ended the long-standing rule of his predecessor, Ali Bongo, and the family. His main challenger is seen as Alain Claude Billy, Ali Bongo's last prime minister. He will also face Dr. Stéphane Iloko, a former executive of the Gabonese Democratic Party, which dominated politics from 1961 to 2023. The final candidate is Joseph Essigone, a lawyer and a tax inspector. All four men are running as independents, with campaigning scheduled to begin on the 29th of March. Every 8th March is International Women's Day, and this year's celebration coincides with the 30th anniversary of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. Several events held over the weekend in commemoration of the day, highlighting various challenges the female gender faces. At the UN General Assembly, a gender equality clarion call was made for a bold, urgent pledge to defend and advance the rights of women, all women and girls. Well, education is one of those rights. Across sub-Saharan Africa, approximately 34 million adolescent girls of secondary school age remain out of school. Studies show that girls are also less likely than boys to complete secondary education, often due to child marriage, early pregnancy, religious mandates, and domestic responsibilities. But what more should be done in making sure girls have an equal footing with boys in school, this then translates to the workplace as well? Well, joining us to answer these questions and more is Lola Alonga, girl child rights advocate. Thank you for joining us on the program, and happy International Women's Day to you.
Thank you, Layo. Happy International Women's Day.
Well, this year's theme we've seen is Accelerate Action. What do you translate this to mean?
Well, I think I'm quite happy with the theme we have this year. We've been talking about the rights of the girl child, the rights of women, International Women's Day for several years, but it seems that we're still far from it. So this theme, Accelerate Action for Women, I think it's just the right thing to do, which means we need to take action now. We're not just talking. We've been talking about the rights of women, the rights to good health, the rights to participate in politics, the rights to education and everything like that. But unfortunately, we're far from it. Look at the example in Nigeria, for example. We can see currently what is happening in the political scene. Obviously, the Lagos State House of Assembly, what happened there, and of course the Senate as well. This shows women still have a long way to go. It's as if we're actually losing from all the gains we've had over the years. And I think we should just try as much as possible to see what we can do, especially looking at educating the girl child, which is one of the areas being focused on now. If we want to eradicate poverty, for example, we need to educate the girl child. It's obvious that in Nigeria, we have over 50% of girls out of school. We have cases of child marriage. We have cases of girls not being able to participate in politics or acquire skills and all that. So it's obvious we need to pay attention to girl child education. And it's also obvious that when we pay attention to the education of the girl child, we're able to eradicate poverty, because a lot of them would actually be able to acquire skills which they will use to be able to get employment and, of course, work as well. And I'm also looking at cases like on the maternal health, for example. It's also obvious out there. Many women are still dying during childbirth, and that should actually stop. My organization, Child Health Advocacy Initiative, in collaboration with some other organizations, are actually working hard to see how we can even help vulnerable girls out there who are not skilled to acquire skills. And we've been putting them through STEM subjects, which they have been going through, which means most of them can't even afford to go to the university, for example. But with sponsorship and support from partners, we're able to get them to acquire skills. And of course, cases of domestic violence as well, still very rampant. And I want to believe many states are doing things about that. Even Lagos State is doing a lot with their domestic and violence agency, but a lot still needs to be done.
Well, highlighting the education now, education of girls and women, there are several challenges, some of which you have listed, that are hindering these girls from being learned. But why does it seem these problems persist?
Well, I think there's still need for more commitment from government, really. It's not just all talk like the theme for this year. This is time for action. They need to kind of invest in the girl child, invest in women, starting from the girls at school. Let's make sure all girls are at school. Let's make sure they are educated. Let's make sure they are able to acquire skills. I'm aware many states are trying to put up skills acquisition centers now. That's a good step in the right direction. Let's get them empowered. Then apart from that, we should also see how, we can have like sponsorship, mentors who are ready to take up these skills and support them financially for those who want to maybe go for higher education and all that for to do that. So I think there should be more commitment from governments, NGOs, private sector as well. I know some private sectors are actually doing a lot in the area of acquiring and supporting girls in STEM and also other areas of education. So I think all hands must be on deck. It's time for action. We must try to see how to help the girl child. 50% of the population of Nigeria is made up of women and girls. And if we leave them behind, we cannot actually progress in this country. We can't even eradicate poverty. We can see what is happening now. We need to empower women so that we can go out there and also be able to contribute to the economy of this country.
All right, then, founder Child Health Advocacy Initiative, Lola Alonge, thank you for speaking to us on Network Africa.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Commonwealth Businesswomen Africa has held its biannual summit for 2025 in Lagos. The meeting, which coincides with the celebration of International Women's Day, serves as a platform to explore the challenges that women face and prefer possible solutions. Our correspondent, Ini John Mekwa, reports.
Members of the Commonwealth Businesswomen Africa, CBW Africa, have invited friends, associates and leaders in various spheres for their 2025 summit. While building on the global celebration of International Women's Day, this meeting has the theme, Synergies for Sustainable Prosperity, Uniting Trade, Health Innovation, Technological Advancement and Clean Energy Solutions in Africa.
Together, we will explore how we can create synergies among these critical areas, ensuring that women's voices resonate in these discussions. We must confront the challenges head-on. Women are often sidelined in decision-making processes that affect our lives and our communities. We need to raise our voices and demand equal representation, and that means we have to be skilled.
One of their friends is the Minister of Arts, Culture, Tourism and Creative Economy, Hannat Musawa. Her concerns are around the limitations rooted in cultural roles and practices.
My challenge is to ensure that we can tap into that culture as a bastion of our strength, as a bastion of our unity as a people. While Nigeria's rich cultural heritage has focused some of the continent's most creative entrepreneurs, it has also posed challenges, particularly for women, in breaking free from traditional roles. Traditional roles, there are many traditional roles that we can tap into that will empower us as a people and as a community. But there are some traditional roles that we have to negate in order to ensure that we're able to empower ourselves as women and break free from those shackles that continue to hold us down.
The wife of Lagos State Governor, Ibijoke Sanwo-Olu, has a broader view.
Distinguished guests, I boldly state that women-owned businesses remain a formidable force in Africa's economy. Despite this, challenges such as limited access to finances, markets and digital resources continue to hinder their full potential. To address these challenges, we must strengthen intra-Africa trade through the African Continental Free Trade Area and ensure that women-led enterprises are prioritized in trade policies, funding and market access.
Similar conversations continue at the three-day summit with more perspective and ideas set to be shared.
Well, police in Kenya have fired tear gas to disperse protesters who tried to occupy a church that was recently given a substantial donation by President William Ruto. The gift to the Church Winner Ministry in the Roysambu suburb of Nairobi of 20 million shillings drew criticism from some young Kenyans struggling with the high cost of living. President Ruto has defended his donation and has offered a similar gift to another church in Eldoret. Last year, both Kenya's Catholic and Anglican leaders rejected donations, arguing that there was a need to protect the church from being used for political purposes.
We've had a huge rise of femicide, which is the killing of women and children. Unwarranted killing of women and children. And I do not think we are creating enough awareness, enough noise to have these matters addressed. Raising awareness on matters around gender-based violence helps us in making sure that there is a promise of a future and a healthy one for our children, for our mothers who are the nurturers of everything around us. I believe if we keep preserving their life and their dignity and their right to be here, we are assured of everything else around us prospering and working out well. If we have more and more women protecting each other before we rely on the legal system to protect us, then it is an everyday conversation and not a celebratory or a functional celebration like today would be.
I am really passionate about women's rights, and I will always be at the front line when it comes to defending women's rights and what they stand for. By raising awareness, I think we'll be creating a lasting impact, because women will then be aware of what to do when faced with abuse or gender-based violence. They'll be able to know what support networks to look up to, like the police, hospitals, and children's office if necessary. I think one of the major issues that are facing us is lack of information. I don't think we are aware of the referral networks that we are supposed to rely on, and also illiteracy, because most women are held down to domestic households and refined to homes and doing things that should be done at home. So I think empowering women financially and economically will also go a long way. I think one of the major things that we should be doing to address GBV consistently is mass education, educating both the boy child and the girl child, because many a times we are only centering the girl child, forgetting about the boy child in the society. So I think merging the two will really go a long way.
A $5 million reward has been offered by the DRC government for help in arresting 3 leaders of a rebel group which has seized much of the east of the country this year. Cornel Nanga, a former head of the DR Congo's Electoral Commission, now leads the Congo River Alliance, which includes the M23 rebel group. He has addressed large rallies in the cities under the group's control. The bounty is also an offer for M23 leaders Sultani Makenga and Bertrand Bisimwa. A reward of $4 million was also offered for the arrest of 2 journalists living in exile and others the government describes as accomplices. But the chances of anyone being arrested appear slim. In recent weeks, the army has been no match for the Rwandan-backed rebels who have captured large parts of the mineral-rich eastern DR Congo, including the region's 2 largest cities of Goma and Bukavu. Former South African President Thabo Mbeki has raised concerns about the country's trajectory, warning that after 30 years of democracy, South Africa is facing a crisis. Speaking at the 14th International Women's Day Dialogue in Johannesburg, Mr. Mbeki pointed to poverty, unemployment, and sluggish economic growth as key challenges. He also notes growing public discontent with the political system and called for a national dialogue to address the country's pressing issues.
So what kind of liberation is this? The capacity we have, we want the political capacity to govern, and therefore to use that political power to do these things. But no, the political power we had 30 years later, we're down there rather than up there. So it seemed to me that therefore we, as a country, we face an emergency. And an emergency, you can't respond to an emergency by resorting to business as usual. So it seemed to me that there's something that we hadn't done. You know, there is this very important principle of international law, the right to self-determination.
A Ghanaian World War II hero is remembering his country's fight for independence from British colonialists. Joseph Hammond describes fighting for the British Empire, how the colonialists turned their backs on African soldiers after the war, and he recalls the 1948 Crossroads shooting, widely seen as a turning point in the march towards independence.
World War II veteran Joseph Hammond recently celebrated his 100-year-old birthday. He's the last surviving member of the Gold Coast Regiment. Going down memory lane, Mr. Hammond recalls the deadly event that led to Ghana's eventual independence 68 years ago.
We were like master and his boy in the old Gold Coast. We were like masters and their boys. This is precisely the way the life is. And the life was by then. Some of our elderly men were conscripted. They dragged them and forced them into the army. But people like us, the young ones, 16 years, after our education, we ourselves willingly joined the army. But we were selected to go to Burma.
However, on his return, it became apparent that the empire he had fought for seemingly didn't want to know.
They promised it fervently. Governor Alan Ben's promises, but they failed us. There was no work. Our position was so deplorable at that time, no work, nothing. So we found it difficult. And I'm not ashamed to say some of our soldiers went into the street to beg for something to eat.
It led to a veterans' march to present a petition to the governor in February 28, 1948, with deadly consequences.
I was standing before all of them were killed. Sergeant Odate Lamte, Patrick Atipo, and then Sergeant Ite. I was standing just few yards, about 6 feet from behind Sergeant Ite, when they were all killed. I was there at the Crossroads, 1948. We were going to the castle when all of a sudden Superintendent Imre and police people, those days they tied police. Then the Superintendent Imre asked them, well, where are you going? Sajadete was then our leader, holding the petition. Sajadete was our leader.
The incident led to the Accra riots and Ghana becoming the first African colony to achieve independence in 1957.
If Britain had honored their promise, pension, good pay, everything, things wouldn't have been so. But Superintendent Imre actually brought the avalanche of troubles to Gold Coast. If not because he used his powers capriciously as a police officer, maybe the governor, Sir Gira Christian, might help us. But he arrogated power to himself, used his powers capriciously to do what he would do. So actually the whole trouble started from Superintendent Imre, that he used his own personal power and used it capriciously. That was why there was rows in 48.
Speaking from a celebration of his 100th birthday at the Lesoko Northern Cluster of Schools in Teshire, In recent years, he's found fame for his COVID-19 fundraising, receiving an award from the late Queen Elizabeth II.
Oh, thank him and other veterans for their service. That's it on the program for today. Thank you for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.